Hi, I'm Elizabeth D'Orazio, and we're here in beautiful White River Junction at Brookside Farm. They're the home of high horses therapeutic riding. And if we're talking about making things better in the Upper Valley, we're going to be talking about the Hartford Community Restorative Justice Center. I'm joined by Martha McLafferty, she's the director, and we're going to talk about how the restorative justice system has faced the challenges of the ongoing opioid crisis and how they're keeping some young juveniles out of the criminal system. Thank you so much for joining us, Martha.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Very big task, and we've been talking to a lot of organizations in the Upper Valley about how the opioid crisis really is affecting everyone. Tell us how it's impacted your work with restorative justice.
Well, over probably the past 5 or 6 years, we have had more people who are in the criminal justice system because of possession, dealing of opioids. Mm-hmm. And they tend to be younger, 19, 20-year-olds that we hadn't seen before.
Right.
And working with them as they work towards moving forward, they say, and I truly believe that basically they're not criminals, that the fact that they have an addiction issue has made them criminals, has made them break into houses, write bad checks, do things like that to get money.
Desperately seek the money to get that next fix.
Yes, desperately. And so when they get clean and they're struggling with that, they say, oh my gosh, this is not the person I am.
Right.
And but this is where they are.
Isn't it true that upwards of 90% of people who are offenders are actually involved in some sort of addiction?
Yes, that's true. It's certainly, I think, looking at the incarcerated population and even the people that we come across now that we're working with, so many of them, almost every one of them is dealing with drug or mostly drug issues, yes.
And that really is something that we as a community have to accept is here.
Yes.
And then start to adjust our thinking accordingly. Like the first thing is, it couldn't happen to us. Unfortunately, there is a culture of accepting drug use. And people fall on different sides of the aisle with that, but the fact of the matter is there are certain people and certain drugs that are highly addictive and they can't help it.
Yeah, and the access has become easier now. They're just around, that heroin is around and people can get it, and it's not difficult to get, and it is cheaper than getting pills.
Or a cup of coffee.
Or yeah, unfortunately. So, yes, it's very troubling, but it is the way that it is now, and all kinds of people have been affected by this.
And one thing that you're doing through restorative justice is particularly for young people. You're trying to find ways to keep them out of the criminal system and have that record. You and I were talking before we came on air about, there's some teen, he keeps pulling a prank. We could toss him in jail and give him the record, or we might be able to come up with a better way. Let's kind of talk our way through that. Yeah.
So at the Justice Center, we work with people at all ends of the criminal justice spectrum, and that includes, the pranks, the teens that are not really thinking carefully about what they're doing. So, for example, let's say kids are throwing eggs at cars. Mm-hmm. So it really affects the drivers, it affects those people. They're worried, they're scared, they're eggs at their cars. The kids are identified, they admit doing it, so the question is, do you arrest them? Do you give them a criminal record? Or do you try something different? Do you say, okay, what we need to do is repair the harm. These kids need to take responsibility and also do what is required of the victims to help them move forward, help the victims. And so we have a process where the kids meet with their parents, with the victims, with people affected by their actions, and they talk about who's been affected by their actions, how they've been affected, what they can do to make amends, and what they can do to avoid reoffending in the future.
And that really is an amazing second chance, and it really is a unique way of looking at, juvenile problems. I want to make sure you check out the Hartford Community Restorative Justice Center website, and they need volunteers. So whatever your background, if you think you can give in some way, particularly maybe if you've been in the military, if you've been a teacher or a mentor, they definitely could use your help. And Martha and her crowd are wonderful to work with, but you could be really transforming lives here in the Upper Valley. Make sure you check them out.